For you.
The Russell Hobbs iron that can burst into flames. British Gas, shamed into giving £11 million to charity. And Npower, can you trust the bills they send you? We don't think so. Plus, EasyJet, Delta and Virgin Atlantic. It's Watchdog, the programme you cannot afford to miss. Yes, hello and good evening and welcome to Watchdog. We're live, as usual, for the next 60 minutes. Tonight, the danger of doing your ironing with a steam glide from Russell Hobbs.
There was a big popping sound and then flame and smoke.
And I realised from the pain in my hand that came straight after it that the iron had caught fire somehow and burnt my hands.
We've demanded an urgent recall. The company's vice president is in the studio to respond. Also tonight, Npower pursuing customers for thousands they don't owe. Are you one of them? Plus, British Gas says the weather stopped us helping the most vulnerable. And holiday bookings and changing your details. A rundown of the most outrageous charges handed out to Watchdog viewers.
Oh, Bruno Brooks. Time to get out my old vinyl, Kajagoogoo. Tonight, we're dropping the needle on a bunch of rogues whose behaviour is off the chart. We're going to update you on what happened to some of our rogues after we investigated them, like this friendly chap.
And I'll tell you what, this is a best practice. This is a best practice guide for flat roofing because you don't seem to know anything about it at all, do you?
Yes, less top 40 rundown, more nearly being run down. We'll be respinning that and other stories in a short while.
Before that, Npower, one of the big six, with profits of £73 million this year, but with more complaints than any other energy provider. Now, a year ago, the company made a public apology after its new computer system went badly wrong and hundreds and thousands of customers were sent incorrect bills. By the middle of this year, Npower had received so many complaints that energy regulator Ofgem stepped in and threatened to shut down the company's telesales operation until it got its act together. In September, Ofgem said standards had improved and Npower escaped without any penalty. But it's hard to understand why, because we're still receiving scores of examples of bills that don't make sense.
Now, we have been here before, haven't we? There are only so many times we can go through this. Working out utility bills isn't rocket science. Now, the calculations may look tricky, but it's just basic maths. Now, if you multiply the number of kilowatts you use by the cost per kilowatt, you end up with your bill.
The energy companies do these calculations for millions of customers every year, and most pass with flying colours. But, by its own admission, one provider hasn't been performing as well as it should. So, having had a year to revise and learn from past mistakes, has Npower finally caught up with the rest of the class?
OK, you may begin.
Question 1 concerns Simon Mills from Staffordshire. He moved out of his one-bedroom flat in August and sent Npower his final bill. He'd been paying a monthly direct debit of £40, an amount Npower had agreed should comfortably cover his energy costs. But the final bill he received left him totally bemused.
I could see more than 3 figures, more than 4 figures, and actually it was £10,246 and 10 pence, which was just astounding for a normal energy user. So yeah, you start questioning really, because did they take it into account the block? Was I paying for the estate?
When he queried the amount, Npower sent out a revised bill, this time for £9,914. Despite making repeated requests that the company redo the sums, Simon is still waiting for a final accurate charge.
It always came back with that same bill or around about the same numbers. So they just had no significant explanation for it, really.
So, on Simon Mill's case, Npower scores nothing.
Now, Npower, this isn't the first time you've been accused of such behaviour, is it? Last December, you promised you'd improve your billing. But by your own admission, the complaints keep coming in, don't they? How many is it, last count? 750,000.
An amount Npower admits on its own website.
And in some cases, the figures were so outrageous, it's hard to understand how even you couldn't twig something was up.
Take question 2. When Will Charles moved into his new home near Eastbourne in August last year, he agreed to pay Npower a monthly direct debit of £410 to cover his gas and electricity.
We live in a very nice house, but it is actually a very energy efficient house. It's just been built and it complies to all the building regulations. We have LED lights everywhere. We don't use a huge amount of energy.
But when he decided to switch to another provider at the end of the first year, Npower excelled itself with its ineptitude. First, it told him he was £1,516 in credit. But then it decided it had got the sums wrong, telling Will he actually owed them £1,675, so he paid up. But Npower wasn't done there.
I looked on the website, and that's when I discovered that I had a bill for £151,000. It's complete madness, that sort of size of bill. Maybe the Roman Abramoviches of this world get sent those sort of bills and just get their people to pay them, but the rest of us certainly don't.
I'm afraid that's another fail.
So you clearly struggle with your maths. And I get that. Not everybody can be top of the class. But there is one thing I cannot abide, and that's cheating. Like, for example, giving someone the wrong bill and then going ahead and taking their money before they've had the chance to question it. That's not something you would do, is it, Npower?
It absolutely is, according to Catherine Kerr. She pays Npower £44 a month by direct debit.
I spend most of the week away from home with my job, so I only really use electric, particularly at home, during the weekends.
But despite her low energy use, Npower ignored the agreement to take £44 a month and started taking payments of £629 instead. A company is allowed to change the amount it takes on direct debit, but only if it alerts the customer first. Npower took the more sly route and simply didn't bother. And even if it had played by the rules, it still would have been an error. Yet again, it had got its sums wrong.
It's quite fortunate that at the moment I'm restoring my house and doing quite a bit, so I had a fair amount in my current account for some bills that were coming out. Otherwise, you know, that may have gone into my overdraft or led to me not paying my mortgage.
So, I'm afraid it's another fail. Will Npower ever learn? Until it bucks up its ideas when it comes to billing, it remains firmly bottom of the class.
Well, Npower apologises to all of its customers. It says that complaints have fallen by a third, that it's resolving its billing issues, and that customers should be seeing improvements.
That's exactly what they said last year.
I know, but Npower says it now realises it was using the wrong tariff to calculate how much Simon owed, and so will be writing off the entire £10,000 bill. Npower also admits to getting Will's bills wrong. It says it inherited an incorrect meter readings from his previous suppliers, so now accepts he doesn't owe £151,000. I'm sure that's a bit of a relief to him. It's decided he is, in fact, £4,500 in credit, an amount it'll refund along with a further goodwill gesture. Catherine will also be receiving one of those. Npower accepts it incorrectly increased her monthly payments, and having worked out her actual bill,
It realises she's owed £1,100. She'll be getting that amount back shortly. Now, if you'd like to comment on that or any of the stories we featured tonight, email us at watchdog@bbc.co.uk or join the conversation on Twitter. The address and hashtag are on your screens now.
Thanks. Coming up, Russell Hobbs and its Steam Glide range. Watchdog demands an urgent recall.
It's nearly Christmas, isn't it? Goodwill to all rogue traders. So what have we learned over the course of the last year? Well, be careful who you invite in for a cup of tea and a mince pie.
If it's the price what's stopping you, I can do you a really good deal because I'm one of the directors of the company.
If you're going to put lights on your tree, only get the electrics checked by people who really know what they're doing.
He's working life. He's not actually going to do that, is he? We've got to tell him to turn it off now.
And always check the credentials of the garage if you want to put a new engine in your sleigh.
You keep their cars, you hold them to ransom, you take their money and you give them scrap in return.
Ah, happy memories. But don't forget, aside from the rogues we've come across this series, there's a whole host of others we've dealt with through the ages. And although we never get a Christmas card, that doesn't mean we don't stay in touch. The olden days. People were honest back then, and there were no rogue traders. They were cut from a different cloth. Those were the days when you could leave your front door open, so they say. Hey, what's he... He's nicked it.
It's codswallop, isn't it? I mean, there have been rogues around for hundreds of years, and we have examples of rogues from more recent history.
Oh, so that's the point of all this scenery?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Bit extravagant, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they're important stories, and there have been developments since last time we told you about them.
Sweep your chimney, Governor?
No, I haven't got a chimney, I've got a flue.
Gesundheit.
Here's a story about a roofer.
Yes, let me take you back to 2010, when we investigated this lot. First Call Roofing of Whalley in Lancashire, not to be confused with other companies of a similar name. The guy calling the shots, boss man Simon Fielding. When Janet Ewan was renovating her home, she paid Simon £2,800 to repair her leaky roof, but he left the roof with more holes than it started with.
When I put my head through my loft, I could see that there was daylight showing through the tiles.
Simon came back to sort it out, but a few days later, even more gaps appeared.
There were a lot of broken tiles still up there. There were nails through tiles which weren't covered by another tile, so when it rained, the water would have gone through the holes. It just basically was a very, very bad job.
She asked a different company to take a look at the roof. They said that putting it right would cost another £4,800, nearly twice as much as she'd already paid First Call Roofing.
I think he's really betrayed my trust. I think he's taken advantage of me. It was awful, terrible experience.
To see them in action for ourselves, we invited First Call Roofing to fix the leaky flat roof on this house in Burnley. At the same time, we asked a man whose views are always watertight, expert witness surveyor Barry Cross, to assess their antics. The only thing they needed to do was replace the felt, a job which should have cost no more than £500. With stooge Kira standing by, Simon and his gang turned up in their very distinctive all-yellow van, a vehicle I'll never forget, for reasons which will become clear later.
So you're all here, brilliant.
As soon as they started ripping up the felt, Simon began attempts to upscale the job, even though the rest of the roof was perfectly sound. He called our stooge upstairs to take a closer look.
Well, when I come to it, water's going underneath, so I think there's water coming somewhere up here, above your head.
Really?
What?
Because it's the cavity, I think it's coming down cavity.
I think all this is nonsense. It is unlikely that the cavity is leaking water in.
Simon's main tactic for convincing Kira more work needed doing, bamboozling her with technical and scientific language.
What they've done, it's hard to explain, you've been a lady, you're not a woman, it's hard to explain. They've lost the raw tile here.
Sorry, I just don't understand what you mean. After unveiling a whole load of fictitious problems, Simon told Kira he'd fix them all for an extra 900 quid, but she stood firm, telling him just to do the flat roof. The first job was to take the moisture out of the sodden roof using a blowtorch before he could put on the new felt.
It won't have dried it out. He was on it for, what, less than 5 minutes. So it won't have dried out properly.
Blowtorch once again in hand, the workman heated the adhesive in the underlayer of felt, but he didn't allow it to cool down before attempting to lay the second layer, meaning it was ever so slightly sticky and his shoes got stuck to it. That meant he did a fantastic Michael Jackson impression, which got the Barry Cross belly laugh, rarely heard. Now, from the humorous to the downright dangerous. The workman left his blowtorch burning and only narrowly avoided it tumbling off the edge of the flat roof onto his mate below. Thankfully, everyone finished the job unscathed, and Simon and co scarpered, having charged us 700 quid for a job that should at most have been around 500.
OK, Barry, what have we got?
Right, well, first of all, you can see the mess we've got along here. These are cut badly. Rainwater will get directly behind there. And this one is even worse here. They've attempted to stick that to the back of the flashing here, and it's just completely peeling off. It really is an awful job.
So a poor job for way too much money. It was time for me to have a little word. We caught up with him in Clitheroe. What you're about to see, friends, is the reason that my nightmares have been filled with big yellow vans for the last few years.
Hello, Simon. How you doing? Matt, all right. BBC Road Traders.
I asked for our money back. Simon didn't like the idea.
I know it's only a goodwill gesture, but there's not much goodwill, is there? And I'll tell you what, this is a best practice. This is a best practice guide for flat roofing, because you don't seem to know anything about it at all, do you?
Yeah, not my best day at work. Let's have another look at how close Simon Fielding comes to running us all down. First, he nearly takes me out with the wing mirror. And then he accelerates towards the entire crew.
That was quite a narrow squeak, that one. One of the closer ones, I have to say. Anyway, Simon Fielding of First Call Roofing. On this occasion, not fielding any questions from us.
But he had his close brush earlier this year when Lancashire Trading Standards took him to court. Simon pleaded guilty to various charges, including fraud relating to work carried out at several customers' homes. The judge said that the offences showed that Fielding had extorted cash from customers which they need not have paid, and that he demonstrated a pattern of being aggressive with customers. So it wasn't just me then.
Sorry, mate. This just in. Simon Fielding was sentenced to 8 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. He was also ordered to pay £5,500 in compensation to his customers and £5,000 in court costs, which is all very well. Doesn't make me feel much better about my close brush with his thoroughly modern mechanism. Did you see the size of that truck? It was built like a... So that's one Christmas conclusion, but there's still plenty more in my giant sack. We'll take another stagger down memory lane to meet the most work-averse plumber you'll ever witness in a bit.
Next, one of the home's most essential, if least loved items, the iron. Working your way through a week's worth of laundry is horrible, especially for me, because I can't iron. So I have someone who does it for me. Isn't that brilliant? Now, Russell Hobbs is one of the biggest manufacturers of small appliances, including irons, and the Steam Glide is one of its most popular models. It costs £32 and promises super fast heat-up time, but a serious design fault in some means it can burst into flames and leave the user with nasty burns.
The iron. As the years have passed, the designs have changed. And so too have safety standards, meaning you'd presume they're safer today than at any time in the past. So, we were shocked when Watchdog viewer Karen Givens got in touch. Whilst ironing, her Russell Hobbs Steam Glide suddenly flashed, made a bang, and then showered her in sparks, leaving Karen with a nasty burn on her wrist. It seemed something had gone very wrong with the power cable.
This is supposed to be a normal, routine activity. In this day and age, it doesn't really occur to you that your iron may not be safe. And that's why, having heard of a case of one viewer being burnt by their Russell Hobbs Steam Glide, we felt we had to investigate further to see if others had experienced the same thing. And guess what? They had.
Check Russell Hobbs' Facebook page and you'll find complaint after complaint from other people saying their Steam Glide had caught fire. Among them, Jonathan and Suzanne Wells. Just like Karen and others on the site, they had a Russell Hobbs Steam Glide model 18651. Theirs malfunctioned whilst Jonathan was ironing back in June.
I was just sat on the floor and out of the corner of my eye, there was a big popping sound and then flame and smoke.
And I realised from the pain in my hand that came straight after it that the iron had caught fire somehow and burnt my hand. The pain was getting so bad, I had to go into the kitchen and run it under the cold tap for probably about an hour.
Once again, the fault appeared to originate in the power cable.
How angry are you both at what happened?
It's quite ridiculous, and for something like, you know, something as everyday as an iron from a big company like Russell Hobbs, you just really don't expect this kind of thing to happen.
The reaction from Russell Hobbs? An apology, a request for them to return the iron for investigation, and the offer of a free replacement. Not good enough, says Suzanne.
I felt like the response that they gave us wasn't appropriate for the level of, you know, danger that our family was put in because of, you know, their faulty iron.
Russell Hobbs made no mention of the fact this type of malfunction was happening elsewhere. Curious, given the volume of complaints on its Facebook page.
Suspicious they were getting the brush off, some customers felt they had to take drastic steps if they were going to get Russell Hobbs to listen.
Soonably's Steam Glide 18651 burst into flames in March.
There was this massive loud bang. Flame shot out of the lead of the iron and caught my top, burnt my wrist. I was just in shock, to be honest.
When Russell Hobbs investigated, it concluded that there had indeed been a malfunction in the power cable.
So, given her injuries and the admission by Russell Hobbs that the iron did have a problem, what do you think the company did? Offer her hundreds of pounds of compensation? Not quite. They sent her an £80 voucher, which could be used on 3 online stores, one of which was Russell Hobbs.
On Facebook, there was other people posting that they were being injured in exactly the same way. So I didn't feel it was an isolated case. I wanted them to recall the product, so I did contact a lawyer. Then it will be out there for the public to see.
Craig Hamilton is the personal injury lawyer who handled her case.
After a couple of months of negotiating directly with Russell Hobbs, they did agree to pay Sue £1,000 in full and final settlement, but they have at no point formally admitted liability for this, which I think they should.
Craig isn't just looking after Sue's case. He's representing a range of others who claim to have been injured by steam glides too.
To this date, we have now been instructed by 9 individuals who've all had exactly the same problem. Russell Hobbs have a duty of care to each individual who buys one of their products and goes on to use it. In my opinion, Russell Hobbs should discontinue this line of product until they've got to the root of the problem.
Forensic electrical engineer Tom Magner agrees. He's acted as an expert witness in many cases involving faulty electrical products. We asked him to investigate the steam glide iron that burnt Karen, and he's identified what he believes to be a fundamental design flaw on these irons.
The problem I've discovered here is with this cord protector. It's too flexible. What it should do is stop the cable in here, passing through it, stop it forming a bend.
But in Karen's steam glide iron, the cable has been able to bend, allowing the wires to twist together.
Now, if you look at the damaged one, the faulty iron, you can see at this bend what's happened is that the wires inside the cable have bunched together. The insulation has broken down, the copper wires inside have touched each other, that's produced a short circuit. What it points to is a design problem with this product.
And his message couldn't be clearer.
The manufacturers should urgently investigate this and recall this product.
So, Russell Hobbs, it's over to you.
Lou Holland reporting there. Now, yesterday, for the very first time, Russell Hobbs admitted that it isn't only the Steam Glide 18651 that's affected. 14 other models could have this fault. With me now is Tim Wright. He is Vice President of Spectrum Brands that owns Russell Hobbs. Mr. Wright, thank you very much for coming in. What is puzzling is that the first complaints were 18 months ago. You've now conceded last night at 7 o'clock that it's actually 15 models across 3 ranges. Why has it taken so long?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to do is actually say sorry. I'd like to apologise to all the people who've been individually hurt. Clearly that was not our intention. We've worked very hard as a company and as a brand to make sure that we bring products to market that are fit for purpose. We actually employ over 150 engineers globally to make sure that this happens.
But it didn't, did it? Look, 18 months before you're able to say at 7 o'clock last night that there are 15 models across 3 ranges. Nobody knew before that. The public don't know. They've been buying your irons day after day.
Yes, I mean, it's true that in the UK alone last year, 4.5 million irons were sold.
OK, why didn't you discover it earlier?
We did actually discover it over a year ago, as you say. That's actually correct. We recognised that we had a flex in our irons, which was actually UK and European compliant, but in certain special occasions was causing this issue.
What are you going to do about it?
So we amended that then. We worked with trading standards and we've been monitoring the situation. Every individual that's contacted us, we've worked with to reach an amicable resolution.
Are you going to recall?
And the product was recalled. We announced the recall. We were in touch with trading standards from last Friday. If anybody goes to the UK press today...
So there is now a recall?
There is a recall that's in place.
Yeah.
If you
How
look in
many
the press,
irons are going to be affected by that?
What I'd
roughly?
like to do is just explain how the recall will work. It's in the press today. It's on the russellhobbs.co.uk website and also on the Watchdog website. And what I'd like people to do is to take the iron, and if they look on the iron, on the bottom there's a label. On that label is the product number and the batch code. This is really important because it's only a small number of batch codes that are impacted.
OK, the model numbers are on the screen now for people.
OK. So I want people to look at their irons, and if they've got the product code and batch code that's impacted, all the contact details are there.
The batch code's coming up now.
We'd like people to contact Russell Hobbs, and we can discuss how we get the iron back.
And if they've got an iron and they've matched it up, presumably to stop using it.
That would be our recommendation. If it matches the codes, we'd like to have that iron back, and so stop using it immediately, please. OK. And anyone worried will need to check that model and batch number, and you probably haven't got your iron with you. So all the details are up on the Watchdog website, along with the numbers to call. Tim Wright, thank you. Thank you.
Still to come. Bruno Brooks runs down Watchdog's top 5 worst holiday booking admin fees.
Now, for most people, Christmas is a time to relax, but not on the Rogue Traders team. We're hard at work writing scripts for next series. Yeah, stick it in. Then there are some people who don't just relax at Christmas. They take time out throughout the year, even while they're working in other people's homes.
If Rogue Traders had existed in Victorian times, then all of our high-speed pursuits would have been carried out in a tram, and that would have slowed things down considerably. But the delays wouldn't have mattered so much, because you would have received every episode in a monthly newspaper. What did the Victorians give us exactly?
Railways.
Yeah.
Photography.
OK.
Oh, the bicycle.
Yeah.
The internal combustion engine.
Not that, but yes.
Oh, cholera.
But apart from all of those, what did the Victorians give us?
Modern sewage systems.
Thank you. Finally. Yes, we've got the Victorians to thank for creating the livelihood of this guy, Mohammed Shamraz, also known as Sam, who traded as Express Plumbing Limited based in Bedford. We'd received complaints of overcharging, shoddy workmanship and spectacular time wasting. So, back in 2011, we invited him out to a house filled with hidden cameras, with plumbing expert Danny Davis watching on. Our toilet had a leak and needed the rubber donut ring that sits between the cistern and the loo pan replacing. It should have cost less than 100 quid and taken no longer than an hour, max. And good job too. Sam charged a whopping emergency call-out fee of 95 quid per 30 minutes.
Right, we can see there the donut. That's all it needs replacing, just a black rubber ring.
But Sam had a plan. A plan to drag out this job for as long as he possibly could.
It appears that he's got a float-operated valve. That's what fills the system with water, but that doesn't need changing.
I think just to be on the safe side, I think it'd be better off just changing one go.
So he fitted our toilet with a new, totally unnecessary siphon and valve.
We don't need any of these parts.
And given that we were paying by the half hour, we certainly didn't need Bruce Lee impressions. Yeah. Or the rattling of tools to make it sound like he was working. Yeah, or the... no, put it away. In the end, a job that should have taken 60 minutes maximum took Sam 2.5 hours.
I'm actually finished here now. You can... All done, all sorted, all working fine.
And the price to fix our oh-so-simple leak...
£700.97.
Well, drain my hose. That's over 600 quid more than it should have cost. So, a freak one-off or evidence of systematic roguery. On to house number 2 to find out. This time, Danny adjusted the arm in the toilet, causing water to keep overflowing outside. All it needed was a new float valve, which can be fitted in about an hour. Once again, we called out Sam, telling him it was an emergency, as in, we'd like you to fix it quickly, please, Sam. Particularly as this time he was quoting £110 per half hour. And though he recognised the need for a new float valve straight away, his proposed solution was not a speedy one.
So what I'm going to do, just to let you know, is drain system down from the tanks.
He doesn't need to drain the whole system down. This is going to take a lot longer than it should.
Time for which, of course, we were paying through the nose. Next up, another totally unnecessary and misjudged manoeuvre.
It looks like he might be trying to put the valve on the other side.
Is there any need to do that?
No, no need whatsoever. We may have removed the overflow, which means that if this were to fail in the future, it wouldn't overflow to outside. It'd come back into the property.
So what he's done could lead to it flooding the bathroom.
Next, he sat back and he caught up on a few bits of email. Remember, he was charging us 110 quid per half hour.
That's it. Look at that. We're into the fourth half hour.
Tested it, checked it, all fine. No more flowing outside.
Great!
He eventually packed up after nearly 2 hours. So, his price for this shoddy job that took far too long?
62806.
Flush my system. All he had to do was replace a float valve that 5 reputable local plumbers said should have cost no more than about 80 quid. At this stage, I'd heard enough.
Matt, all right, BBC Road Traders, £628. Sam, do you know what? It was almost worth £628 for the most astonishing display of time wasting I think I've ever seen, which included the yawns, the stretches, it included the kung fu moves, it included staring at nothing in particular. Easy as you go. Easy as you go. Left hand down a bit. It's a bit of a tricky corner, this one. OK, you're clear. See ya.
And in fact, we did see him again. Sooner than we thought, because moments later, he was back.
Look, in what planet could you possibly charge £628 for what you did and didn't do there?
Right, whoever's booked it in, they were told clearly a rate of £110. I'm sure you've probably got it recorded. If they weren't happy with the rate, they have to go ahead with it.
You've left us with a job that has no overflow pipe. If that valve had overflowed again, it would have come into the room. There's no overflow on it.
No, no. What type of thing is put in there?
Why is that relevant? Tell me.
They don't go wrong.
They never go wrong.
Nope, they've never gone wrong.
This back and forth went on for almost half an hour, so it's a good job this time we weren't on the clock. Sam refused to accept he'd put a foot wrong and eventually left with a smile on his face. The next time he was challenged about his behaviour, walking away wasn't really an option.
Bedford Council Trading Standards had also heard about the director of Express Plumbing Limited. They took him to court in October 2013 after receiving a multitude of complaints about him. The judge described his behaviour as insidious and amongst the worst of its kind. He was issued with a court enforcement order and told to pay over £16,000 in legal costs. The order banned him from overcharging for work and prolonging the time he spent on jobs to increase the cost. He even had to put a warning on his website informing potential customers about the order.
What's a website?
It's a place where you can go to look at pictures of cats.
For once, it was Sam who was forking out loads of money. Glad tidings, Sam. God bless us, everyone. So 2 visitations down, 1 to go. And we saved the best until last. The rogue of Christmas present. Come again when the clock strikes 10 minutes.
Thanks, Matt. Time for a quick email and Twitter update. Lots of you getting in touch about Npower, lots of you complaining about their billing systems. This is Kate on Twitter. Last year, an Npower engineer misread both of her meters, received a bill for £10,000 for just 3 months. Also, a lot of people panicking about the Russell Hobbs story, the irons. Please check the BBC Watchdog website. You'll get all the batch numbers, the serial numbers, and make sure you don't use what could be possibly faulty. But there are lots of naughty men out there using it as an excuse to say, that's why I don't do the ironing. Stop it.
Next, the prices you have to pay to change details on a holiday booking. This is Marjorie Cambridge. We reported on how she booked with Thomas Cook and Air France to take her granddaughters, Jessica and Eleanor, to Disneyland Paris. Then Jessica injured her ankle and couldn't travel, so Marjorie tried to get the ticket changed so that Jessica's cousin Charlotte could go instead. The cost to swap the names was £500, a fifth of the total cost of the holiday. The companies insisted this was in line with their terms and conditions. We thought the amount was scandalous and asked viewers to get in touch to see if they'd had similar experiences. We've had a mountain of responses. So tonight, we bring you a rundown of the worst examples with the help of a familiar voice from Radio 1.
Good evening, Annie, Chris and Matt. I'm Bruno Brooks, and this is the top 5 countdown of the eye-watering admin fees compiled by the Watchdog viewers. There are 5 new entries from the travel industry, starting off with EasyJet, landing at number 5 with Runway 360.
Yes, his budget favourite EasyJet, who landed Jan Wiley with a £360 charge after she incorrectly entered the flight details when booking a family holiday to Malaga.
We're all going on a summer holiday.
When the acknowledgement came through, it showed that the flights were in the wrong direction, i.e. from Malaga to Gatwick and then return, which is obviously no good to me. I got on the phone to customer services within 5 or 10 minutes and explained that there was a problem, I didn't understand why, and asked them to help me. And they came back to inform me that there would be an admin charge of £360. That's £30 per leg of a flight per person. With 6 of us, £360, I think is absolutely ridiculous.
EasyJet and a £360 bill for Jan in at number 5. And next on the countdown, we're spinning a tragic story of love gone wrong. New at number 4, making their chart debut, Travel Republic and Monarch.
Greg Ashwell booked flights to Turkey for him, his girlfriend and his 2 kids at a cost of £341 each. Sadly, the couple split before the holiday. But when Greg tried to get a refund for her ticket, Travel Republic and Monarch said they would only give back the flight tax of £40. But processing that refund would incur a £25 admin fee, leaving Greg with just £15 back from his unused £341 flight.
So that was Travel Republic and Monarch. Next, a cautionary tale for careless typists flying in to the admin fee top 5. Amiga Travel, featuring KLM and Delta Airlines, in at number 3.
Yes, indeed. They charged Amanda Robb from Norwich £70 when she noticed just a single letter mistake on her airline ticket to Boston via Amsterdam.
When I looked at the printout, I realised that there was a one-letter error in my first name, so that it read Ananda instead of Amanda. So I phoned Omega Travel straight away, pointed out the error, and they said, no problem, we can change that. That will be £70.
Amiga Travel, KLM and Delta Airlines with a £70 spell check at number 3. Next up, keep that suitcase packed as we're staying up in the sky for a re-entry at number 2, EasyJet.
Tony and Lorraine O'Driscoll paid £155 for 2 tickets to Amsterdam. But because of work commitments, Tony couldn't go, so he tried to give the seats to his in-laws. To do that, EasyJet wanted 380 quid. 240 of it because prices had gone up since he booked, plus an admin fee of £140.
So, who's top of the countdown? That's coming up. But first of all, thanks to production manager Gemma Thomas for the incredible hard work, as well as Annie and all the team back at HQ. Thank you, guys. Great stuff. Here it is, straight in as a new entry. Thomas Cook and Virgin Atlantic with Las Vegas Flight 717 in at number 1.
Paul Breakenbury booked a trip of a lifetime to Las Vegas for him and his wife Gail for their 40th wedding anniversary. But when ill health meant he couldn't travel, he asked a family friend to go in his place. To allow this, Thomas Cook and Virgin wanted a whopping £717.
There's no justice in that. I can't understand how you can quantify that amount of money just to change a name when the seat is already there. I bought it.
Back up, let's fly away. This week's new number 1, Virgin Atlantic and Thomas Cook, £717 for Paul and Gail. You've been listening to the Watchdog Admin Fee Top 5 Countdown. I'm Bruno Brooks. Thanks for listening. And whatever you're doing tonight, have a nice night.
Thanks, Bruno. Now, EasyJet says it allows a 24-hour grace period if you make a mistake, so Jan shouldn't have been charged. It's apologised and refunded her. However, it stands by the charge for changing Lorraine and Tony's ticket, saying its terms are clear. Travel Republic claims all costs were down to the airline Monarch. As for Monarch, it says it's very transparent about fees and charges. Amiga Travel stands by its charge, saying the £30 covered the admin, communication and labour costs. That is, by the way, changing Ananda to Amanda, 1 letter. But luckily for Amanda, this KLM flight was run by Delta, and as Delta don't charge for a single letter change, it'll be refunding the full amount. Finally, Thomas Cook and Virgin say whilst their rules on name changes are clear, in this instance, they've offered a full refund of £717 to Paul. So, as we've seen, travel agents do charge for admin fees, but what do they do? How expensive can it be? Well, yesterday I tried to get an answer from ABDA. Now, they represent travel agents. Sean, thanks for speaking to us. Lots of viewers are getting in touch, annoyed, very upset that they're being charged large amounts for very small changes. You can understand that, can't you?
I think it's very understandable that if you get a charge, if you've cancelled a booking, you have to amend it, it seems quite substantial. You can be annoyed by that, but I think it's very important that when people book, the first thing they should do is read the terms and conditions of the company concerned. But also the industry maybe could do a better job sometimes just explaining why these charges exist, because there's usually a very good reason for them. OK, well, let's try and do that now, because, OK, Mr Hollins books a holiday via a travel agent, and I get all the paper back and it's Mr Collins. Oh, 1 letter, easy mistake to make. I go back to you, I want you to change it. If you have misspelt your name, the problem with that is if you turned up at the airport with a ticket saying one thing and your passport saying another, there's a very strong possibility you wouldn't even be let on the plane.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, when I come to you, so what do you do then?
Well, the charge is one of 2 things, but the charge itself will be almost certainly being made by the airline, if it's an airline ticket, rather than the travel agent. But the charge itself is to concentrate people's minds to a certain extent, just to make them aware of just how important this is. But there are moves in Brussels as we speak, actually, and they're talking about actually stopping airlines charging excessive amounts if it's just simply a simple misspelling.
The travel agent will charge an admin fee. What do they do for that admin fee?
Admin fees are there partly to reflect the cost of the work being done. Now, there's no industry standard for that. It's up to individual companies to decide what those charges will be, but they also have to make it very clear in their terms and conditions.
But what I don't understand is why I'm being charged, say, 50 quid to change one letter. What is it that you're doing to warrant 50 quid?
Again, if you're talking about a misspelling of somebody's name on an air ticket, those charges don't come from the travel agent. They come from...
But sometimes they do. There are some admin fees from travel agents.
But not for misspelling. I said, if there's a misspelled name on a ticket, it's going to come from the airline. And as I said...
well, we've got an example here. Amanda was Ananda, and the travel agent charged her 30 quid, an admin fee of 30 quid.
What, on top of the charge?
On top of the airline charge.
Well, again, that's to reflect their costs, and they must have made that very clear in their terms and conditions.
Yeah, I can't get to the bottom of what actually a travel agent does to warrant an admin fee.
It may well be they have to contact the airline concerned, discuss it with them. That might take a period of time. Sometimes they physically have to pick up a phone and sit in a queue and wait. OK, in some cases, it gets a little bit bigger, the charges, because we have to cancel the whole holiday and rebook. Indeed.
But sometimes you're just actually replacing someone with someone, so no one's losing out.
Again, I think it's a misunderstanding that the ticket is not your property. The airline has a contract with you as the traveller, you personally, and if you don't go, it's a cancelled booking. If it's a popular flight, it might well be that the price you paid months ago has now gone up considerably, but the airline will say, right, well, that's the new price. So that's why you can see a difference there.
Sean Dickman, thanks.
£30 to pick up a phone. I think that was the man from ABTA trying to plait sawdust. Thanks, Chris. Keep your stories coming in. In the meantime, here's a few more.
After the misery of admin fees, some good news for anyone flying abroad with children from next year. In his autumn statement yesterday, Chancellor George Osborne announced that from May, air passenger duty is to be scrapped for the under-12s. It'll then be abolished for the under-16s in March of 2016. Up until now, everyone on an outbound flight from the UK was charged the duty, with the rate varying depending on your destination and the class of travel. The government predicts this move will save a family with 2 kids £26 on the price of every flight to Europe and 142 quid on trips to the States. So, finally, flights for your kids won't contain any annoying extras, except for booking fees, cost of airport parking, excess baggage charges, in-flight meals, airport...
Looks like the clothes designers at Debenhams could do with brushing up on their spelling. One eagle-eyed viewer this week spotted a fashion faux pas on a T-shirt from the store's new red herring range. There it is. It shows a city view of San Francisco, but the letters spell out San Francisco. In response, Debenhams has told us it'll be issuing everyone in its buying department with dictionaries and rolling out weekly spelling competitions to stop such mistakes happening again. Unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, that's why here on Watchdog, we make our own T-shirts.
Which dog? I'm not going to take that personally. Anyway, it was announced today that British Gas has been fined £11 million for failing to meet government targets on energy efficiency, such as improving warmth and reducing costs in low-income households. Regulator Ofgem revealed that in 2012, British Gas only managed to meet 60% of its obligations. That meant 7,000 families in poorer homes were left waiting months for work to be carried out. Now, British Gas has come to an arrangement with Ofgem for the £11 million penalty to go to charity. The reason, by the way, British Gas gave for missing its targets? Yup, you've guessed, the weather.
Now, when winter comes, we all need to keep an eye on our elderly neighbours, but there are those who keep an eye on olden folk for all the wrong reasons, to raid their savings. And that leaves a stink around the place worse than your kitchen after you've boiled the sprouts. The beauty of Christmas, of course, is that you get to catch up with friends who, for one reason or another, might have slipped through the net earlier in the year. Hold on. Everything's different. We're not in the Victorian era anymore.
Oh, no. This is recent history. Look, We have a gramophone.
If this is more recent history, maybe we're dealing with more recent stories. Maybe we're dealing with some unfinished business from this series.
Quite so.
It's been just 3 weeks since we met Essex-based British Solar, a company that sold renewable energy products across the southeast, as we discovered their sales tactic of choice was pressure selling to the elderly. You might just remember Gladys and David Owens. When their boiler broke down, it could have been fixed for around 100 quid, but instead they were persuaded by a salesman from British Solar to spend 8 grand on a fan heating system that was totally inappropriate for their house. To make matters worse, you can buy the same kit for half the price elsewhere. Are you annoyed with the sum of money that you've lost to these people?
Yeah, of course we are.
What difference does that make?
That was there for all the things that we might need if anything happened to us. And basically, it was half of the expenses for any funeral or anything like that.
We captured a typical British Solar pressure sale with our hidden cameras. The main tactic was to bamboozle customers with confusing figures.
The government's going to pay you £7,400 over 20 years, plus 14,000, plus 18,000 the 10 years after.
You need a degree in maths to do this.
Even our renewable energy expert, Richard Fowler, struggled to follow the sales pitch.
I found it very difficult to follow the figures, so somebody in this lady's position, she wouldn't have a clue what she was doing.
Then, with our actress suitably confused, the man from British Solar went in for the hard sell.
I have done no spiel, I've done no sales tactics. There's no risk in this. What I'm saying is take the deal, yeah?
Yeah, you see, that sounds like sales tactics and spiel, doesn't it? To find out if the company actively taught its sales staff to behave in this way, we sent an undercover mole as a trainee. Lesson 1, if a customer won't let you into their house, make up a shocking sob story to gain their confidence. For instance...
I here and look, he ran out in front of me. And I didn't hit him, luckily, but I nearly did. I was shaking up a little bit. I don't suppose I can get a glass of water from you, I'm a little bit shaken. And then he gets in the door, because nobody's going to say no, are they?
No. Lesson 2, lie to customers, pretending that the company's working in conjunction with the government.
Is that right then? Does the government pay for 60 minutes? Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. And lesson 3, even though they promise home visits and no obligation free surveys, your job is to seal the deal on the day, no matter what.
What they don't know is that you're going to take a cheque from them on that day. But if we said that, you'd never get to see anybody.
They've got to make a decision there and then, and then you'll start seeing the beads of sweat appearing on their head.
So you see, the entire company seemed to have the same sell at all costs attitude. When we wrote to the boss of British Solar, Robert Jackson, he told us that as a result of our findings, he was shutting the company down. The company is indeed no more, and the offices in Brentwood are lying empty. Robert Jackson passed the buck, blaming the culture of pressure selling on commercial director Bradley Chapman. Our mole discovered that he was indeed the one who set the template for how all the salesmen should behave. Here's training manager Lisa on the impact Bradley had on the company. She thinks he's great.
Very highly motivated man. As soon as he walks through the door, you feel the energy just coming off of him. He's brought the company from strength to strength.
And here's Bradley himself in the weekly meeting, singling out one particular salesperson for the way he tries to close the deal, no matter who he's selling to.
He's top every week. He's top of the rep league, he's top of the bonus pots, he's top of everything. But there's a reason for that, because he's one persistent. He will not take a no. He will not leave the deal out there. The only thing that matters to this guy's getting the deal and getting the money in his bank. He don't get emotionally involved with customers, he don't get emotionally involved in the business. Don't get emotionally involved with anybody.
And how does he reward such behaviour? By presenting him with nice bottles of wine. Quite the message to send out to your trainees. Now, at the time, we never got the chance to catch up with the two men at the top. But we got a tip-off that Bradley Chapman has already set up a new company selling, you guessed it, renewable energy products. It kind of feels like we still need to talk to him. So that's what we're going to try and do.
Hello, Bradley. All right, BBC Road
Hello
Traders.
there.
How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
We didn't get a chance to talk last time when you were at British Solar.
Yep.
Do you explain how you could justify telling people to be
No.
emotionally uninvolved?
What I said at the time was that
Yes.
I'm not a director of the company. I didn't own it. I was a consultant.
That doesn't change the
and we
words that
also
came out
offered you
of
an
your
opportunity
mouth.
to come down to speak to us.
OK, you didn't offer me a chance because I would have taken that up.
I wasn't a director of the company. I didn't own the company. I was a consultant. Robert Jackson owned the company. We worked for Robert Jackson. At no time did I have any
changes
capacity.
nothing about the words that came out of your mouth that we saw in that room. You were the guy that's motivated people to go into people's homes and treat them without compunction, without kindness, without emotional involvement.
Weeks ago, and you're doing an unnecessary and unfair approach, and you have the wrong guy.
You did not answer the allegations we put to you.
Those words that come out of my mouth.
So you just follow orders, do you, Bradley? Is that what we're looking at? Someone who will just follow orders.
Sorry, you're not being fair.
So when you're giving your presentations, we're looking at someone who will just say the words that he's given.
No, that's not fair.
Because you don't strike me as someone that just says the words that he's given. You have the power to influence young people going into the houses.
That's unfair. That's
going
unfair.
into the houses.
Please take your hand off the door.
You haven't answered
You're
questions.
trespassing.
You still haven't.
You are trespassing,
I am
man.
not in yet.
You are trespassing.
Bradley, how can you justify speaking in the way that you did? Let's talk about your trainees going into the homes of 70 and 80-year-olds across the country. And that's why you've got to have responsibility for what you say. He still can't answer or justify why he could encourage people to go into people's homes and treat them without emotion, to be emotionally uninvolved from somebody that could be his or your mum and dad or grandparents. And that's why we're here.
Don't forget, we wouldn't know about any of these rogue traders if it wasn't for you. So if you've had an experience with con men, dodgy dealers or all-round rotters, please get in touch. Go to the website, bbc.co.uk/watchdog, find my face and click where it says send your story to rogue traders. We would love to hear from you. But for now, we'll leave you with the sight of our three not-so-wise men, Sam, Bradley and Simon, all making a return appearance on our Rogues Gallery.
Great stuff, Matt. Lots of you getting in touch about Npower, unhappy about their billing systems. Massive response to Russell Hobbs' story on those recalls for dangerous irons. We seem to have crashed the website. All details of affected models and batches are on our website. Some people are waiting for 30 minutes, but keep going.
Who's that? Susie?
Yeah.
Oh, Susie on Twitter.
Can't read my writing.
Watch out, Debenhams. You may face a hefty admin charge to change that one letter on your T-shirts.
Yeah. Francisco.
I like ironing. I'm the Iron Man. Keep your emails coming in, watchdog@bbc.co.uk. If you want to write to us, the address, or you'll find that on your screens now.
Thanks, guys, and that's it for tonight and for the series. We'll be back with a money-saving special in January, and then Watchdog returns for a new series in May. Until then, from all of us here, good night.
How police caught up with one of Britain's worst serial killers. Crime Watch follows next on BBC One.